something that will be very interesting is second half of the year, a PEA on Du Parquet.
Yep, exactly. So work's advancing well on that, and lots of initial trade-off studies on size and scope of a project. So I think we really are getting our hands on, what is the opportunity for this project? How's it coming together? Lots of work left to do on it, but I think the picture is starting to come into focus a little bit on, what we really think that this can become, and it's pretty exciting.
I have a question for you, and this will maybe lead us into today's news release that came out. We talk a lot about gold. Are there any other metals of interest, let's say at Du Parquet? Silver, copper, or anything else worth mentioning in that regard?
Yeah, there's some silver in the deposit. I don't think we have the metallurgy work done to know to what extent that it can recover. But there's certainly some silver in it, some silver assay grades. It's one of the things that we're going back to look at really in all of our projects, and especially at Springpole. We've actually commissioned a piece of work already looking at what are some of the other critical minerals that are there. In Du Parquet, it's going to take us more work before we know if there's anything in concentration. One thing that's very interesting at Springpole is, we knew the metallurgical program involved understanding how you recover the gold associated with tellurides, or kind of locked up with tellurides. Tellurium is one of those critical minerals that's on all of these lists. It's a very strategic mineral used primarily in developing thin film solar panels. It's a cadmium tellurium kind of compound that is essential in making these elements of sort of thin film solar, which I think a lot of people really do see as the future in terms of, embedding it in glass and windows, so that you kind of get these sort of passive solar power generating buildings. And that's all continuing to evolve. But we think we have one of the bigger deposits of available tellurium right now. So, listen, there's a lot to understand in terms of the quantity that's there. There's a lot to understand in terms of the ability to recover it. But no, I think, we in the mining business need to make sure that we're, getting as much out of these minerals as we can as we're putting them through a process plant. So that's one that we've been looking hard at. Again, it's not going to show up in any feasibility economics, I don't think. But, some of the things that you get to understand, some of these minerals sell for, thousands of dollars a kilogram. So if you can find some, it'd be kind of handy. Yeah,
but we wouldn't complain about that now, would you?
Well, it's what you get when you start, producing 20% of the world's tellurium and trying to sell it. You probably find that the price goes down, but that's a whole other issue about being a large producer in a small market, and we'll have a whole other segment about that another time. But that's, upside in the project. It's not something we're counting on for the base case at all.
And if you have a few more minutes, if we could touch on today's press release. You sold some claims you had that you had acquired as part of the Du Parquet, but you had deemed them being non-core. Can you tell us a little bit about the rationale behind that?
Yeah, sure. So this was some mineral tenure that was inside one of the three companies that we acquired when we acquired Du Parquet, and it's some long-standing mineral tenure in Manitoba, located in an area where Grid Metals is doing some really interesting exploration. This deposit had a base metal showing on it, a nickel copper base metals showing, but the broader trend around where they are exploring, which is actually more or less on strike from one of the few, if not maybe the only, producing lithium project in Canada. And this is a project that's been producing lithium, like, medicinal grade lithium, and for a long time, for a very long time, and until grew up in Winnipeg, and I had no idea there was a mine that was, producing just to the north. It's changed hands a few times. It's not a huge mine, but interesting strategic things. So when we announced the closing at Du Parquet, the group at Grid Metals reached out to say, hey, we have land on either side of you, and this really kind of ties our property package together, and we want to do some real work on it. Is it something that you might be interested in kind of folding in? And so we looked at that and said, it's not something, as we said at the outset, we got a lot on our plate, keeping us busy with all the other projects. We didn't need to take on a lithium project too. So no, it worked out pretty well, and we're excited, with the work that they're doing. They're having some very interesting results around it. I think they still need to turn it into a bigger deposit and take it forward, understand the economics of what it could be. But it's in a great location. It's got great infrastructure, and I think they'll know pretty quickly as to how this is going to help be complementary to the work that they're doing. So no, it's kind of a win-win opportunity for all of us.
And you get an equity position in the company as part of the deal. Is that correct? And a royalty, a 2% royalty, if I remember
that's
correctly.
what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
And then not unmeaningful amount of cash coming in with it as well. So yeah.
It feels like I've been a shareholder in the company myself for a long time. It feels like I'm going to use the word shedding, but I'll say strategically shedding certain assets that maybe aren't being properly valued by the market, and generating cash that then you can reposition for things like drilling, other areas, and that you're focusing. The company seems much more focused, I sense, now than, let's say, even 3-4 years ago, even 2 years ago. Is that a safe assessment? Do you feel that?
I think that's it. And that's, it's not by accident. It's very intentional that we're trying to focus our team's time and energy and our capital spend on the projects that we already know are big enough to be meaningful to the biggest gold producers in the world. So, I think if we can keep ourselves focused and moving those projects forward, that's where we're going to surface the biggest bang for our buck.
That's great. And I wanted to mention this at the beginning, but I was digging through some filings late last week, and I noticed Keith Neumeyer happened, I think April 11th. Keith Neumeyer bought another 250,000 shares and he's the chairman and founder.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that popping up anywhere, and I went, whoa, wow, Keith made a little purchase again.
Yeah, no, he continues to buy. If you look at the regularity of those purchases, it's he seems to be kind of once a quarter anyway, and this kind of picks up 1 million or more shares a year just quietly and in fits and starts. And he just saw this sort of where the shares have been trading recently, and these levels where they're still trading now, and it's pretty compelling. It's pretty compelling value. So, the one thing about Keith is he's never going to trade it. It's just going to be bought and put away. And, hopefully, when we get to be a $1 billion company, as he's quite publicly said, then, we'll hopefully all be winners at that point.
Yeah. Well, I'd imagine that Keith strives to make wise decisions with his investment capital. So,
indeed.
Did I miss anything, Dan? Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
No, only just, lots more interesting stuff coming from us over the course of the next few months, and the big catalysts, and hope these drill results from Du Parquet are going to serve as catalysts to demonstrate some of that growth. But we have the PEA coming up at Du Parquet, and Springpole, some more exploration results, which should be coming out in the not too distant future here, and driving forward with our own feasibility and economic assessment, moving forward with the environmental assessment process. And lots of good stuff on the go, Ron, that hopefully is going to manifest itself into a pretty news heavy summer.
Yep, and it wouldn't hurt if the gold price continues to be strong, and maybe, just maybe, we can lift the overall sentiment for gold developers off the basement floor. I want to remind our viewers that when the sentiment is beaten down as low as it has been, there's almost only one way that it can go, and that's up. So hope,
Yeah.
It'll happen, and will be brighter days ahead for not just First Mining, but all the companies in the gold development arena.
Yeah, and for us developers, we've talked about this before, but I really do feel we're starting to see the strategic market waking up, right? Yeah, and I think with B2 having bought Sabina, I think that's a really good indication. I think you're going to see a bunch of other developers get bought over the course of the next year. Those that are in development or in construction or rounding the corner on completing construction. Those projects are going to be put into other people's, multi-asset portfolios, and then they're not going to be available anymore. And
Right.
so, we just keep saying we got to be focused on skating to where the puck's going to be. And in 2 or 3 years' time, when there are no big projects in tier 1 jurisdictions to be advanced, we're going to have 2 of them. And
Okay.
at that
Oh, wait,
point,
yeah.
if we're in a robust gold environment, which I think we all think we should be in, and honestly, I think we get the gold price to cooperate, and stick above 2,000 or move markedly above 2,000 for, my view is 2 quarters, right? You need those 2 quarters of at sort of new all-time highs to really cement into people's psyche that we're going to another level. And then ultimately, at the time when all of these, all the capital comes seeking opportunities, we're going to be in a very good position. So we just keep ourselves focused on it and keep moving our projects forward and take risk out of them every day and try and grow them every day and make them better every day. And the time will come.
So I have a quick question for you. You mentioned B2 bought Sabina Gold, correct? And
Yep.
Sabina was a development company. Is that a good?
Yeah, Sabina had the Back River development project up in the high Arctic in Nunavut, which is a fantastic project. And actually, we hired James Maxwell from Sabina.
That was what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, James had been there for 17 years.
Huh? Wow.
And yeah, and did a lot of work. Sabina used to have a portfolio around Red Lake, which is, why James was so excited to come down and work on our Birchuchi project as well. But no, he's part of the team that took that from, a deposit that had been found out into a district. And I think it's that strategic value. Now, Sabina walked down the path, got all of its permits, although had a couple of hiccups along the way. Many of the viewers go back to look at that. It was not a straight line, but ultimately through a lot of good work that they did and really good environmental programs, got the permits to build the mine, got it financed, and we're kind of getting ready to start construction. And that was the time when all of a sudden the offer comes over the table. So, in more robust times, those proposals tend to come sooner in the evolution of a company because people don't need to see all of the boxes checked. But yeah, that's, and not to say that we're going to go down that path because I don't think if you want to go down that path until you're at the point where you've checked a bunch of the boxes, which we're very confident we're going to be able to do. And then you can sort of assess at that time, what's the best thing for the shareholders? Is it, selling one of the projects? Is it selling the company, or is it bringing in a partner who's going to build it? And, you sort of work with a partner, or in the right circumstance, if the share price is at the right level and you can raise all the capital and not take too much dilution, do you put the team together and embark on that construction ourselves? So all of those are opportunities, but the time to address those is when you can address them, which is after we do what we're going to do over the next couple of years, particularly with Springpole and and take a lot of risk out of the project.
And I know there's a lot of great people at the company, but I just want to point out, and I promise, Dan, I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but I want to point out, you've got James Maxwell, 17 years at Sabine. I didn't realize he'd been there that long. Instrumental player there, right? The exploration side. Then you look at, oh boy, the name is slipping me. Darn it. I used to call him
Steve Lines is the name you're looking
Steve.
for.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And I won't even edit that out. I apologize. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but he was instrumental in the permitting process, just one of the mines, but the giant greenstone mine
Correct.
that's now
Yep.
being built by Equinox. I mean,
Yep.
the quality of the people that you've brought on board on the team, and there's other people as well, but it really is, I think, worth noting.
Yeah, no, we're delighted to have been able to put the team together that we have, and it's, you know, it's great people with a lot of really good experience and a ton of energy who all believe in us getting to the finish line. And when we do, we're all going to be happy shareholders of First Mining Gold.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Dan. I really
Okay.
appreciate your time. If anyone wants to check out the company, www.firstmininggold.com, or
That's
they can reach out to Paul Morris. I'll have his email address in the description below. He's the investor relations rep.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks,
All right.
Ron.
Thanks,
Always a
Dan. Have a
pleasure.
great day. Thank you.
Okay, take care.